Okay, so I'm finally getting to this A-arm for this YXZ. If you've been following this story at all, you know that I rolled this sucker a few times, and there's a lot to be done on it. Got some plastic really bunched in on the sides here. That's the good side. That's the bad side. Got to replace the cage. But I wanted to start with the A-arm because I don't know if you can tell from this angle, but the whole thing's kind of sitting sideways. So I wanted the A-arm to be done first so that I know that if it is sitting sideways, it's because of frame damage or because of that cage or whatever. But I figured the A-arm was a good place to start. But I think everything else is so messed up on it that it's been making it really hard for me to be motivated to do anything on this. But today's the day. I'm gonna go for it. And when you're having a hard time getting motivated for something, you really just gotta find a good starting point. In this case, it all starts with breaking the lugs on the wheel. Oh my gosh. And the last time I put this wheel on, I just did it with Nicole's dad's electric impact, and they are obviously way too tight. It's only supposed to be like 30 pound-feet or something for these wheel lugs. It's a 19 millimeter for these. There we go, I already broke that one loose. Now that I got those loose, I can jack this up a little bit and then take them off the rest of the way. To get this A-arm off, obviously it's connected here by the ball joint and here by the bolts, but then of course it's attached to the shock and the spring here, a brake line here. Let's see, and I think that's it. So, time to get to work. With the suspension hanging like that, there's really not any tension on that spring. But I think I'm going to, just to be safe, release the tension on it a little bit. Just take all that preload off. That way I don't have any surprises when I take the bolts out. Before you take the preload off, you always want to make sure you can get this back to the same place. So in my case, I've still got it at the factory settings, so I can just look at my owner's manual, or I can just look at this other side and make sure they match. If you've got a super special setup, you'll want to measure. Of course, if you got a super special setup, you're probably not watching my videos anyway. I'm not sure where my spanner wrench is at the moment, so I'm just using a screwdriver to break this loose. Definitely not the proper way. So don't try this at home. In fact, don't repeat anything I do. I'm not a mechanic. I'm just showing you the stuff I do on my car. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. I really just want to get it to a point where I can just grab onto that spring and just kind of rattle it. Once it's there, I know that it's not going to come springing out on me the second I take the bolts out. But it takes a long way to get there, I'll tell you that. Probably be a little bit faster if I had my spanner wrench. All right, so that took forever. I had to go all the way up just to get it to where I could move the spring pretty easily, but there's still tension on it. So this brake line should be able to just take 2 bolts out here, 10 millimeter bolts. All right, so just loosening this isn't gonna be enough. I'm gonna have to take the caliper off too. And I think the caliper will fit through the window here. But for right at the moment, I'll leave the caliper on until I get everything else off. That way I don't have it hanging or have to support it or whatever. So the next thing, if I dare, I'm gonna take off the bolts for the shock. So for this bolt, you got a 17 on the back side and a 14 on the front. I'm using a flare nut wrench just to try to help it keep from spinning off of there. And it's still trying to round that bolt off. Maybe I'll switch sides here. Okay, well that wasn't working. Switch sides. Because I'm still trying to strip this bolt off even with that flare nut wrench. Okay, and there's not any tension on this bolt, feels like. Not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous about this. Okay. All right, so that caliper is kind of just being in the way, so I'm going to take that off right now. It's a couple of 12s. Taking this off will allow me to get to the castle nut a little easier. Okay, gosh dang. Got to hold it on the inside. I used a 11/16, but I don't think it's 11/16. I think it's a 17, but I don't have a 17 open box wrench. All right, so I just got to get something to compress this caliper. There we go. There we go. Okay, and then I will just support that right there for now. Okay. There's a castle nut right here. That's got to come off. You kind of see the cotter pin right there. Just got to bend that back. And you should always try to replace the cotter pins after you use them. I don't know if I have another cotter pin, so I might have to try to reuse that one. I'm not sure. You can see that cotter pin right here. I just got to get some pliers and squeeze that together, get it as flat as I can, and then it should pull out the other side. Okay, so it's a tight spot, but I'll try my best to show what I'm doing here. Try to get this cotter pin flat. Okay, hopefully that's flat enough. Got a little push on there. Okay, and then I pushed it out as much as I could there. Now I gotta pull it from this side. It's hard to get a good grip on it. You want to be careful not to collapse it. It needs to have the kind of an eye on this end. Otherwise it'll just push right through. Anybody who's worked with these cotter bins enough knows that sometimes, oh, there we go. Sometimes they pull right out, and other times they are like that. So it's not the right size. I use the 7/8. It's probably whatever the closest metric thing is to it. 7/8 fits pretty tight, but you can definitely tell that it's probably supposed to be something else on there. Now, since I'm replacing the whole A-arm, I don't mind beating on it a little bit. Let's see, I'm just gonna tie this up. Connected a bunch of the plastic there just to get it out of the way. Okay, it's coming out. I mean, I guess as long as yours isn't too bound up, you could probably do that without hurting the A-arm. It didn't really hurt the A-arm, but probably not recommended. And you can see this caliper will fit right up through the opening in the A-arm. And I'll just rest it up here somewhere. There we go. So the last thing holding this on are those two bolts. All right, it looks like we got a 19 on the inside, a 17 on the outside. Whoops. Goodness. And it's tight. That's like breaker bar tight. If I wasn't such a badass, I would have needed a much bigger tool for that. Okay, and there is a washer on there. So you got a nut and a washer. And I will use a breaker bar on this side because I'm a selective badass. I'm old. I'm like Toby Keith. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I ever was. Well, this was my once. I already used up my one good one, so now I'm gonna cheat with this one. There we go. I'm not going to pound on these. I'm just going to give them a little tap. Just put the nuts on there to protect the threads. Just kind of help these get started coming out. I'm probably just going to have to thread them out anyway. Okay, yeah, and that is pulling it out. You shouldn't have to fight it the whole way, though. And you can see a washer on this side as well. Goodness, there we go. It did not get loose till the very, very end there. Okay, this one's a little looser. I'll be able to just wiggle that one out. There we go. Gosh, that other one just wanted to fight. There we go. Got an A-arm. You see the new one next to the old one. I'm going to have to transfer the bushings and the grease zerks Okay, so how did another one just magically appear? And why do I sound so much different? That's because it's been 2 weeks since I started doing this project. I bought the wrong side A-arm. Damn it. So I'm sure in the video, as you're watching it, you're probably, I'm talking about transferring parts and stuff, and you're probably looking at it thinking, those look different. Well, it was in that very moment, as I was talking about transferring parts, that I realized I got the wrong side. So I had to order the correct side, and there it is. And I got to have my first experience with Partzilla because Rocky Mountain ATV did not have it in stock. And I will tell you, 3 out of 10 do not recommend. Rocky Mountain ATV, for the first time ever, did not have it in stock. So I had to keep looking. Partzilla had a good price. It was actually $2 less than Rocky Mountain ATV. Except at Rocky Mountain ATV, their minimum for free shipping is $75. At Partzilla, it's $150, double that. So I checked on shipping, and it would have been $17 for shipping. I was only $20 away from free shipping, so I thought, well, I might as well get something, right? Might as well, instead of just spending $17 for shipping, I'll spend $20 and get something and get free shipping. Well, there was nothing I could find for $20, so I got something for $25. All of it was supposed to be in stock, except 2 days later, I got an email saying that the other item was not in stock. Okay, no big deal. I didn't need that item, assuming that they would ship this out even without the other item, because that's what Rocky Mountain ATV would do. And they didn't. They waited 6 days to ship it until they had the other item in stock, shipped it all together, and it took me, what, 10 business days, but 2 weeks to get this stinking A-arm. All right, got it cleaned up a little bit. I didn't try to get it like spotless, just kind of mostly clean. Now, just need to pull these off. Okay, it's a 5/16. So the easy way to not mix them up is just go to straight from one to the other. And it looks like it was greased. The threads were greased from the factory. Kind of sloppily, actually, but... So I'm just going to spread that grease on a little bit more. And just transfer this guy over. There we go. If you've got a ton of miles on yours, you'll probably want to change the bushings while you're here. But this YXZ is relatively new, so I think these are still some pretty good bushings. Okay, so I'm using a 7/16 socket just to drive the inside bushing out of there. Okay, that was pretty easy. Looks like those are identical, so I'm not too worried about mixing them up. Just need something better to hit it out with. Maybe the socket. Yeah, that worked a little better. That way I'm not using a sharp edge from a screwdriver. I'm using kind of a rounded edge from a socket. It's very greasy in there. If you were replacing the bushings, if you were doing a replacement bushing, you could probably even use the old bushing and just drive it out with that. Okay, so So that's what we're looking at here. Just got to do that 3 more times. Man, what a greasy mess. At least I know my bushings were greased pretty well. And then I'll end up keeping this ball joint too for future use. But the control arm itself is junk, obviously. It's got a big old bend in there, so much so that it actually took some of the paint off. But I think the ball joint's probably still good. Even though all these parts are just going to end up greasy again, I'm still going to clean them off a little bit just because they're so messy. I just want to be able to put this stuff together without spreading grease all over the world. And the grease that Yamaha uses is stinky. But it seems to be pretty good. Everything's still... It sticks very well. So yeah, I would definitely use... I don't have any Yamaha lube today. I'm going to use something else. But man, I wouldn't have a problem using Yamaha lube other than the smell. Okay, and I'm just going to pre-grease them with this Maxima waterproof grease. Shouldn't need much. Trying to get this just as level as I can and just tap it in. There we go. Okay, I started. Just a little tapping. Tap, tap, taparoo. Jeez. Takes a little effort. I'm not like slamming this hammer down. I know it's probably pretty loud, but I'm just tapping it. And again, I know it probably looks like I'm hitting it really hard, especially since I switched to the bigger hammer. But I just switched to the bigger hammer because it's more of a flat, it's got more of a flat edge. I'm not hitting these very hard. Okay, finally got it. Holy crap. That kind of sucked. All right. And I'll pre-grease these as well. These caps I didn't choke pulling these caps off. They just kind of slip on the ends there. Oh. Okay, that is ready to go in. Let's clean up these surfaces so I'm not jamming grease or dirt in there that doesn't need to be there.
Okay. Oh, gosh. Watch your caps, they try to fall off of there. Bushings a little more. There's one. Okay, got it, okay. Yeah, and even the threads, the bolt looks pretty dry from the factory. But I'm gonna grease it anyway, because I love grease, kinda. It's a love-hate relationship with grease. But I don't like dry moving parts, I know that. Just kind of, there we go, just kind of wiggle it as you push the bolt. Put some light pressure on the bolt and kind of wiggle it in. Light pressure, don't mess up the threads. If you have to, you can stick maybe an awl or something, screwdriver or something in there to just kind of line the holes up. But I'm just using the wiggle and push method, which is actually coincidentally why I've got 4 kids. Oh, you know what I messed up though? Dang it. I forgot to put the slide pins in there. Okay, so put my caps on too soon. I forgot to put these slide pins in there. Okay, I just dipped the end in grease. Even though there's already grease in the hole, I just want to be sure. I don't want to hit that with a hammer. Let me see. I have a mallet, but it's kind of a crappy mallet. See what I mean? Okay, so those don't go in very easy. That's basically a press fit in there. So this is how I got the other one in. I'll take the caps off because they're not as strong as everything else. A mallet wasn't good enough. It wouldn't hit it through, so I ended up kind of, you can push it in a little bit and get it nice and square in there. So I don't want to mar up this end, so I'm putting this hammer there to protect it and then just hitting it in that way. Is that the right way? Probably not. That's how I did the other one. And if I really would have been smart, I would have put some cardboard down or something here so that this other end doesn't get marred up, but I was not right. I got some cardboard right here, so I might as well do it now. Okay. Then you'll have to feel, see there's still a bump right there. So I'll have to use a socket. Still a little bump right there, so I'll have to use a socket to get it flush. Okay, now I can put my caps back on. Glad I noticed that before I got too far. That would have sucked. All right, where were we? Okay, right back to where we started here. Now it's even tighter than it was before. So, okay, I put a little extra grease in there. Just gonna work it in a little bit. Okay, there we go. Got one on. So I'm just gonna very lightly put this other end on just because. Okay, and all I did was put the inside nut on just hand tight. And then I am still gonna put the bolt in from the wrong direction here. From the factory, it comes in from this direction, but I think I've got a lot more leverage if I go from the other direction. I don't see why it would matter. Oh. There we go. Almost. Holy crap. Man, the wiggle and push ain't working. Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh. I think it's gonna work now. It moved a little bit. Okay. Almost there. I mean, I definitely would not dare tap that in. I might maybe try twisting it in very carefully here. Definitely not something you'd want to force, otherwise it's going to ruin those threads. But I'm almost through. I can't see anything on this backside though. Okay, so the threads are through. So I probably could tap it and be okay. But I'd much rather do it this way. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it's going. I'm just kind of threading it through. And there is a chance that maybe that mount is tweaked from the rollover. And that's why that was so hard, or maybe they're just always that difficult, I don't know. Okay, and then same with this. You're not supposed to grease these, so you don't have to grease yours, but I grease mine. And you notice I didn't tighten anything yet. Just getting everything just kind of hand tight here. Just so I know it's not going to flop out while I'm trying to do something else. Definitely before I get too far, I want to thread this brake caliper through. Yep, no problem there. And I'm just going to kind of set it on here for a second, just so it's supported. That. Just make sure everything lines up okay. And then these ones, I will put a little Loctite on them. So I don't want that coming apart. And I always overdo it with Loctite. I don't know why. Just my nature, I guess. Just want to get everything lightly assembled here before I tighten anything. Yeah, because those are, looks like the slit on its bracket a little bit. Get that shock mounted. And yes, I did grease that. Even though they don't grease it, I'm doing it. Don't do what I do. Do whatever your manual says. Okay, and then that's got a nylock nut on the back. Okay, so that should be, oh, except for the brake caliper. Everything else should be together pretty good there, but not greasing that. I'll put a little Loctite on that caliper bolt. And this end's a little harder because this bolt doesn't come out very easily. Kind of have to, actually I think I did that premature. I think you got to do the top first. There we go. Yeah, get the top started. Then rotate this on. Then do the bottom. I think the next thing will be just tightening everything up. Okay, I'm back. And it's been 2 days again, because as I was almost finishing this up, we got a call from Nicole's oldest kid that his car broke down. So back again. This has been the longest 2-hour project of my life, but I'm ready to tighten everything back up. I already tightened this caliper off camera, but I'll just pretend. So you got a 17 on the inside here and a 12 on the outside. So you just hold the inside with the 17 and then tighten with the 12. There we go. I'm just pretending. So that's already done. You just choose where you want to start. I'll start with the shock here. You got a 14 on one side and a 17 on the other side. And there is a torque spec on this that I believe is 41 pound-feet. That is not a fact. I think it is 41 pound-feet. I'm going to do mine at 41 pound-feet. Over tighten it, you could make the bracket too tight and then it won't move. So here we go. 41 pound-feet I'm doing. And then these two here. So you got a 17 on one side and a 19 on the other side. There we go. And when you're torquing a bolt nut combination, you want to make sure you do the torque on the nut side, not the bolt side. That way you get your best reading, or most accurate reading. Oh, whoops. Forgot I put this bolt in backwards. Mostly on purpose. And these have a torque spec. Again, I'm just going on memory from other things I've read in the past. I believe the torque spec is 47 pounds. Oh, of course my wrench is off. I'm thinking that feels like I should be there. Oh, great. Let me back it off and just make sure I didn't go too, well, let's see what I put it at. 45.9. Okay, that's still under the spec, so 45.9 it is. Not that I'm questioning Yamaha engineers or anything. I'm just saying I think 45.9 is going to be good enough. Okay, so now the next thing's going to be this castle nut here. That's got a torque spec too. I think it's 56 pound-feet. Again, just going off my memory. Could be totally wrong on that. But without having the axle out, there's no way to actually get a torque wrench on there. So I'm going to wing it. Okay. I'm just now realizing that I packed a bunch of my tools to go help Nicole's kid the other night, and they're now in the car that she's driving that's about an hour away from here. So I'm kind of improvising a little bit with the tools. Yeah, why not use a claw hammer? Jeez. So not only are my tools, a bunch of my tools in the Jeep that Nicole's driving right now, but also the keys to my toolbox. So I'm literally just stuck with what I've got right now. Okay, that did it. Okay, just had to pull that guard out of the way a little bit. And I'll show you what I'm dealing with here in a second. You can kind of see that castle nut there, and the pin just has to go in one of these slots. And it pops out this other side here. You can see the grease push through. And then you just got to bend that so it can't come out of there. Okay, and most of the time you'd want to replace that cotter pin, not just put the old one back in. All right, and these are just the 10 millimeter. Definitely do not have a torque spec on those. I doubt it matters, especially I put thread glue on there, so I'm definitely not worried about it. Just don't over tighten it because they're tiny bolts, just little 10 millimeter bolts. Okay. Now, we gotta grease it. And I actually had to buy another grease gun because my old grease gun with the rigid end cannot get to these grease zerks. So I got one with a flexible head that hopefully will. I have not tested that yet, but I think it will. It looks like it will. The grease I'm using is this Bell Ray Total Performance Lubricant. So let's go ahead and grease this guy. We'll start with the easy one. And sometimes people will tell you you gotta just push that grease in until you see some come out. Not necessarily, just you can kind of feel the resistance as it starts getting full. Like I can feel pretty good resistance right there. That should be good enough, as long as you're greasing your stuff often. The only bad thing about a flexible head is you gotta have a pretty fair amount of pressure to push it on there. And with the flexible head, it's kind of hard to do that. But you don't really have much of a choice with this machine. Yeah, and that one's not pushing back out. This side, the grease actually started pushing back out a little bit. So that should do it. The next thing will be setting the preload back on the spring, and look at that, a spanner wrench. I found it. But I want the least amount of pressure on that spring as I can get. Right now it's got all the weight hanging on it, so that helps. I'm gonna put the tire on too, just so that I get as much weight on this thing hanging as possible. I'm not gonna show putting the tire on. This video is already getting really, really long. So I'll just do that real quick off camera, and then I'll come back and set that preload. I do plan on messing with the spring preload and the shocks and stuff at some point. Maybe to soften this thing up a little bit. But for now, I'm just gonna make it match the other side. And just go with the factory settings. Okay, so you kind of get the point. Okay, finally got it down. And man, the only way I could get this wrench in there is to go from the bottom. You kind of see what I was doing and just pushing it as far as I can and just little turns at a time. Once you get it down to where you want it, just twist the top down. And if I'm lucky, they'll just cinch together and I won't have to hold the other one, but we'll see here. Okay, there we go. Sometimes you get unlucky and you have to hold the bottom one while you tighten the top, but that one worked out just fine. And then I'll spray the lube off with some brake parts cleaner just because that stuff does collect a lot of dust. All right, and then I just kind of push down on the suspension to settle it a little bit, but you can see that it is sitting very level now. Much better without that bent A-arm. And now you can see that the steering wheel is straight. Wheel straight, steering wheel straight. Before, the wheels were straight and the steering wheel was sitting like this. So that fixed it. I wasn't sure if it would. I didn't think that little bend would make that big of a difference, but it did. So I'm happy about that. Okay, so if you were only here for the A-arm part of it, we're done. That's all it took. If you're following the entire story and the entire repair process after the roll, the next thing I'll be doing is the roll cage and straightening out that plastic. Hopefully this video helps a few people out. When I was trying to find an A-arm video, I couldn't find one that was just about replacing the stock A-arms. I did find one from Partzilla that was actually about replacing the ball joints, but luckily they took off the A-arm too, so that kind of helped me a little bit. So their shipping sucks, but their videos on YouTube are actually pretty good. So I guess they redeemed themselves in that way.
Dad, did you see me?
Yeah, sorry. But I appreciate you guys watching the videos. I'll see you on the next one.
I did diarrhea in my underwear.
Okay, well, we got that on camera. Good.
That's poopy.
I'm sorry. Are you not feeling good?
No.
Oh.
That's so stinky.
Yeah, poop stinks.
Yeah,
Hopefully this one
I
works.
have diarrhea on there.
Oh yeah, but I'll edit it out. But yes, it is definitely in the video.